Be prepared. It's the motto of the Boy Scouts of America, and it's good advice for everyone. Our next story shows what can happen when you're not prepared, when you're left in a dangerous, life-threatening situation, and all you can do is hope and pray for a miracle. Early in 1998, Mary Davenport and her daughter Miranda decided to take a day hike on Mount Lemmon, just outside of Tucson, Arizona.
And we were looking forward to just going out and stomping through the woods and having a great time together. The scenery is just fabulous. The mountains are so pretty.
Even though Miranda suffered from chronic asthma, she enjoyed physical activity and especially enjoyed spending time with her mother.
Got everything?
Yep. We had just started hiking recently, and this was the highest elevation hike that we had taken thus far, but we had been out several weekends and just had a ball.
They chose the spectacular Butterfly Trail, which rose and fell from 6,000 to 8,000 feet above sea level.
We probably were in the trail maybe 3 or 4 miles. We hiked down into a deep gorge, and it was very pretty there. It was fun going down, but the climb up was very challenging.
How you feeling?
We hadn't taken into consideration the impact of the elevation on Miranda's breathing.
Think you can make it? I hope so.
The air is thinner. It's harder to get the amount of oxygen into the lungs that one can at a lower elevation. Well, as we were coming up out of the gorge, she had to just stop and take a rest.
Oh, hold on, I need to take a break.
I could hear that she was beginning to develop a wheeze, and that's always the first sign that she's going into an acute attack.
Do you need your inhaler? I just want to get out of here.
3.5 hours into the wilderness hike, Miranda's asthma completely overwhelmed her. They were miles from help, and Miranda couldn't go on.
You okay?
It got very bad. I was helping her up one climb, and she simply collapsed.
Oh, you okay?
She took out Miranda's inhaler.
Here.
But it was nearly empty, with only a couple of doses left. And these had no effect on her escalating condition.
Take another one.
I was very, very scared. I remembered that we had the cell phone with us.
The phone.
It didn't occur to me at first. I was in such a state of panic.
911.
I made contact with 911, and the line got very staticky.
I can't hear you.
And then the battery just died.
It's dead.
I didn't know what to do.
As Miranda's asthma attack got worse, a storm front approached.
The temperature began to drop, and it clouded over, and the wind picked up, and eventually it began to snow, and we weren't prepared for that.
Suddenly, they found themselves stranded on the sheer face of a mountain.
I felt paralyzed. I was paralyzed by fear. The worst case scenario would be that she'd go into severe respiratory arrest and die. I was just getting more and more upset inside, and I turned to look down the trail to check on Miranda, and I saw a group of Boy Scouts walking up the trail.
Oh my God, I don't believe it. It's the Boy Scouts.
It was like manna from heaven. I couldn't believe it. I was so thrilled.
Miranda, the Boy Scouts are coming. I'll go down and get them. My daughter's having an asthma attack. She's up here, up this way.
The troop of scouts went into action immediately. Eagle Scout A.J. Myers could tell Miranda was in trouble.
Her skin was kind of pale. She's just kind of lying there, gasping for air.
Scoutmaster John Lastovica directed the boys to wrap Miranda in a blanket.
She couldn't talk. She could barely communicate with facial expressions, hand expressions. She was in shock.
I have an inhaler.
Miraculously, his son Ian suffered from the same condition.
I, too, have asthma, so I gave her my inhaler because she uses the same thing.
But by now, Miranda's condition had deteriorated to the point that the inhalant was useless. Luckily, Mary's first call had gone through, and a helicopter had been dispatched, but it was searching in the wrong area.
They didn't know exactly where we were, so with the Boy Scouts' help, rescue was able to pinpoint where we were.
Using a map and compass and a large antenna on top of Mount Bigelow and the cell phone that we had, there was a communications link established between the troop and the chopper pilot.
So 350 bearing?
We were able to give them a compass bearing from the antenna and an approximate distance.
The rescue helicopter had found them, but they were not out of the woods yet. The forest was too dense for it to land. Miranda would have to be moved to a clearing about 1 mile farther up the trail.
We're going to have to get her out of here.
The Boy Scouts would use their ingenuity and training to fashion a makeshift stretcher.
We found big logs, probably about a couple inches in diameter, about 6 to 12 feet long. We stuck the poles into the sleeping bag. We put her on there and we carried her until we could find an open area.
We'll get you up there, don't worry.
It was very, very slow going. And the whole time, Miranda was having a very hard time breathing. Her color was beginning to change. She was beginning to go a little blue around the lips.
Along the whole way, she kept asking me, is my daughter gonna live? Is she gonna be okay? The only thing we could say is yes to keep her calm.
Hey, look!
Following directions from the Scouts, a larger rescue team arrives. They are able at last to move Miranda the remaining distance to the staging area for the airlift.
They finally got her to the area, and at that point, they dropped a line from the helicopter, and they hooked it up to the metal basket that was part of the gurney, strapped her down, and they simply lifted her off the mountain. When I saw her being lifted, it was probably one of the most frightening moments of my life. To watch my daughter being carried away, dangled from a line 70 feet below a helicopter.
I'm very grateful to the Boy Scouts. I think that they did save my life. They were wonderful in every aspect of the situation. It's great that they were there. In addition to their help, their physical help, they brought a lot of good humor to the situation, so they were able to take some of the scariness out of it.
If the Scouts had not come along when they did, I think it's very possible that Miranda would have died that night. We wouldn't have been able to leave the mountain, and the temperature was dropping.
Since 1910, in all the handbooks of the Boy Scout of America, the motto has been, be prepared, and the slogan has been, do a good turn daily. And I'm really proud of the boys of 172 who put the slogan and motto into action.
What if we take a bearing off those TV towers up there?
There's no greater feeling than finding someone, helping them, and knowing that they're gonna live. There's no greater feeling than that.
I think that I'm more confident in myself, knowing that I can and have saved someone's life.
They were like angels, and I'll never forget them for the rest of my life. They'll always hold a very special place in my heart. I think the biggest miracle was that so many people came together to help Miranda that we didn't know, and they all appeared exactly when we needed them to be there.